Mara stood near the company ballroom bar, trying to enjoy the Christmas lights and soft music. She held her drink carefully, more for comfort than taste. Her husband, Rhett, was beside his coworker Ned, laughing louder than the rest. Then Rhett leaned in and said, "You should see Iris. Now that's the real prize. Mara's just the consolation." The words cut through the noise. Ned froze, shifting uncomfortably as if he wished he hadn't heard anything. Mara felt her breath catch. "What did you just say?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. Rhett turned to her with a lazy smile, pretending nothing was wrong. "Relax, it's just guy talk," he said. But the look in his eyes showed he meant every word. The car ride home felt like driving through cold fog. Rhett tried to turn everything into a misunderstanding. "You're taking it the wrong way," he insisted. Mara stared straight ahead. "Then explain it," she said. Rhett sighed dramatically. "Iris is beautiful. Everyone knows it. And back then, she was younger, not in a place to date. But you were stable, mature." Mara felt the insult under every word. "So, I was the sensible option?" she asked quietly. Rhett shrugged. It made sense. Mara felt something inside her sink. "Did you ever love me?" she asked. He answered too quickly. "Of course. You're my wife." But the sentence felt empty, like a default line he'd practiced. The moment they entered the house, Mara pulled out their suitcases. Rhett followed her, confused and irritated. "You're not really packing," he said. "You can't leave because of one comment." Mara didn't look at him. "You told someone I'm your second choice. That's not a small thing." He reached for her arm. She stepped away before his hand touched her. "Before we continue, remember to subscribe, like, and comment where you're watching from so you don't miss our next story." She folded shirts, zipped bags, and ignored Rhett's weak excuses. Her phone rang as she set clothes aside. It was Iris. "Mara, Brett's wife called me. She said something happened at Rhett's party. Are you okay?" Mara put her on speaker. "Rhett, did you say something about marrying the wrong sister?" Iris demanded. Rhett stiffened. "It was blown out of proportion," he muttered. Iris snorted. "Tell me the context where that sentence is acceptable." "Go on." Rhett went silent. Mara looked at him and finally saw him clearly, not as the man she married, but as the man he truly was. "I want you to pack and come stay with me," Iris said firmly. "Bring the children. I don't care what time it is." Rhett tried to interrupt. "This is ridiculous. You're making it huge." Iris shot back. "You made it huge the moment you treated Mara like a placeholder." Mara felt her throat tighten, but the clarity felt good, almost steadying. Rhett kept muttering excuses, but none of them changed the truth. Mara zipped the suitcase closed. It sounded like a door locking behind her entire marriage. The next morning, Mara gently explained to her kids that they'd be staying with Aunt Iris for a little while. Her daughter brightened, thinking it was a fun trip. Her son asked if it was a sleepover. "Just a little one," Mara answered, forcing a smile. When they arrived, Iris opened the door immediately, pulling Mara into a hug so tight it cracked the shells she had built around herself. The kids ran to explore the apartment, and Mara finally let her tears fall. Iris held her like someone protecting something precious. Mara's parents arrived before noon, worried and angry. Her father's jaw clenched as she retold what Rhett had said. Her mother covered her mouth, shaking her head in disbelief. When Mara finished, her father took out his phone. He put the call on speaker. "Rhett," he said sharply, "you are no longer welcome at our family gatherings. You will communicate through lawyers only." Rhett tried to argue, but her father hung up. Almost immediately, Rhett sent message after message, apologizing, blaming, begging. Mara saved everyone in a folder. Later that evening, Sela, a family friend, stopped by with takeout and news. "Half the office knows," she whispered. "People said Rhett talked about Iris a lot, too much." Mara felt her stomach twist. She thought of moments she'd brushed off, the little comments Rhett used to make. After Sela left, Mara went to the guest room to collect more things for the kids. While looking through an old drawer, she found Rhett's journal. Inside were entries from years ago. pages filled with admiration for Iris and cold, practical descriptions of Mara as the safe choice. Reading them felt like being punched again and again. Mara met attorney Rowan 2 days later. Rowan listened carefully, her expression steady and focused. "This isn't just hurt feelings," Rowan said. "This is emotional abuse, through comparison." Hearing it said aloud made Mara's eyes sting, but it also gave her a strange kind of grounding. Rowan explained the next steps: documentation, mediation, custody arrangements. For the first time since the party, Mara felt like there was a path forward, even if it would be hard. Iris stayed close to Mara in the days that followed, making sure she ate, slept, and didn't drown in all the thoughts spinning in her head. But the storm got worse when Rhett arrived unannounced at Iris's apartment 3 days later. The doorbell rang, and Iris opened it only halfway. Rhett stood there, unshaven and desperate. "I need to see my kids," he said. Iris didn't move. "You schedule visits now. You don't show up and demand things." Mara appeared behind her, crossing her arms. Rhett tried to push forward. "This is between me and my wife." Iris actually laughed. "Your wife is my sister, and she decides who enters this home." Rhett's voice rose. "You've always been jealous. You turned her against me." Iris smirked. "You did that all by yourself at the Christmas party." Mara stepped forward. "You should leave, Rhett. Now." He stared at her like she was a stranger before stepping back and walking away. That evening, Mara received a call from Ezekiel, Rhett's brother. His voice was too cheerful, too smooth. "Look, Rhett drank too much. Boys say dumb things. Don't blow this up." Mara clenched her jaw. He repeated the same things sober. "Still," Ezekiel insisted, "you two should talk." Mara cut him off. "I'm done talking." She hung up while he was still trying to calm the situation. Iris gave her a proud nod from across the room. It was the first time Mara realized she didn't have to soften everything for people who didn't care about her pain. A few days later, when Rhett was at work, Mara returned to the old house to pack more of the children's things. Walking in felt like walking into a life she no longer lived. The pictures on the wall felt like props from a play, the dining table like a memory she had borrowed. She moved from room to room quietly, packing winter clothes, books, toys, and the kids' favorite blankets. When she entered her bedroom, she noticed Rhett's nightstand drawer cracked open. Something tugged at her, a quiet instinct, and she looked inside. That was how she found the journal again. His handwriting filled with comparisons, confessions, and cold calculations. Reading, "Mara is the safer path. Iris is the dream," made her chest burn. She took photos of every page. This was no accident. It was who he had been all along. That weekend, Mara sat with her parents around their dining table. It should have felt comforting, but the room buzzed with tension. Her father kept talking about taking Rhett for everything he had. Her mother kept apologizing for not seeing what Rhett truly was. Mara tried to explain she just wanted peace and stability, not revenge. But every retelling of Rhett's words exhausted her. By dessert, she felt drained. On the way back to Iris's apartment, Mara told her parents she needed space to breathe. They agreed reluctantly, promising to support her quietly from now on. Back at Iris's place, the missed calls and messages continued. Rhett started calling from different numbers when she blocked him. First he begged. Then he yelled. Then he begged again. The emotional whiplash became almost predictable. Rowan told her, "Save everything. He's building your case for you." Mara created a folder on her phone titled Documentation. It filled by the hour. Every message felt like another piece of proof that her decision to leave was not impulsive, but necessary. Days later, her friend Sela returned with new gossip. Rhett's company had formally opened an HR investigation. "Apparently he's been saying weird things about Iris for years," Sela said. "Your husband wasn't hiding it well." Mara felt her stomach knot. How was everyone else aware while she had been trying so hard to hold their family together? She wondered how many people had pitted her silently at past gatherings. She hated that thought, the idea that strangers understood something about her marriage that she didn't. Mara enrolled her kids in temporary counseling at their school. The counselor, A calm woman named Vesna spoke gently and asked the kids simple questions. After the first session, Vesna told Mara, "Your daughter seems okay, but your son asks if his father stopped loving you." The sentence pierced her. Mara admitted she didn't know how to answer that. "You don't need to explain your marriage to them," Vesna said. "Just remind them they're loved. That's what matters." A few days later, she met Rhett's mother for coffee, something she'd been avoiding. The older woman arrived already crying. "I suspected Rhett felt too strongly about Iris," she whispered. "I hoped marriage would fix it." Mara listened, numb. Hearing that someone else had noticed the imbalance, even at their wedding, made her feel sick. Rhett's mother apologized again and again for staying quiet. Mara thanked her for being honest, but walking out of that cafe felt like leaving another heavy piece of her old life behind. Mara then began therapy with a woman named Callista, who specialized in betrayal recovery. Their first session was mostly Mara crying while Callista listened. "You didn't just lose a marriage," Callista said gently. "You lost the version of your life you thought you had." Mara nodded, wiping her eyes. Callista gave her a notebook and told her to write whatever came up during the week: anger, grief, confusion. For the first time in weeks, Mara felt her breath ease, even if only a little. 2 weeks after starting therapy, Mara received an email from Rowan titled Counter Petition. Rhett had filed his own divorce papers, claiming they had marriage problems that could not be fixed. He wanted equal custody and a clean split. Mara sat at Iris's kitchen table staring at the document, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. Rowan called her shortly after. "This is normal," she said calmly. "We'll respond. But I need you to list every moment he made you feel less than." That night, Mara opened a blank notebook and began writing. Memories poured out, things she had ignored, tolerated, or convinced herself were harmless. She filled 3 pages before her hand began trembling. That Friday, the kids had their first overnight visit at Rhett's house. Mara packed their bags twice, unsure of what she'd forgotten, unsure of everything. Iris helped her finish and reminded her gently, "The kids will be okay. You've done everything right." But the moment Mara watched them disappear through the front door of the house she once lived in, her chest tightened painfully. She paced Iris's living room for hours. Iris tried to distract her with movies and snacks, but Mara couldn't sit still. She checked her phone constantly. When she picked the kids up the next morning and saw them smiling, showing drawings they made with Rhett, she cried from relief the moment they climbed into her car. 3 days later, Iris showed Mara a rude message she had received from someone claiming to be Rhett's friend. The message blamed Iris for breaking up a family and accused her of being too attractive to live near married men. Iris rolled her eyes, took a screenshot, and posted it publicly with a fierce caption: "Women aren't responsible for men who can't control themselves." The post spread fast. Mara worried the attention would only anger Rhett more. Iris closed her phone and said, "Rhett made this mess. Not you, not me. Stop protecting him." At her next therapy session, Mara told Callista she was scared Rhett might compare future children the same way he compared her to Iris. Callista listened and nodded. "You cannot control Rhett's behavior," she said gently, "but you can model self-worth for your kids. They will learn from what you accept and what you refuse." She gave Mara homework: say kind things about herself when the kids were around. It felt silly at first, but Mara tried. "I did a good job today," she would say after cleaning or solving a problem. The kids always smiled, and the simple words slowly stitched something back together inside her. Rowan filed their response to Rhett's petition later that week. It included the screenshots, the journal photos, and statements from family members who witnessed Rhett's behavior. Rhett's lawyer called Rowan, furious, claiming they were exaggerating. Rowan put the call on speaker. "Your client compared his wife to her sister for 8 years, she said coldly. "This is not exaggeration. This is evidence." And then Rowan hung up. Mara felt a quiet satisfaction. For once, someone defended her with no hesitation. On Friday, Marissa invited Mara to a girls' night. Iris insisted they go. The living room was full of women who hugged Mara tightly when she walked in. They poured wine, shared snacks, and told funny stories about terrible dates and annoying exes. When Mara talked about her work in graphic design, they listened, really listened. She realized she hadn't felt genuinely interesting in years. When she laughed that night, it wasn't small or forced. It was real. On the drive home, she felt lighter, like she had stepped out of a dark room into sunlight. At 2 in the morning, Mara's phone buzzed with a long email from Rhett titled, "Please read." It was an apology mixed with excuses, promises, and emotional pleas. He wrote about being sorry, but also mentioned Iris 3 separate times in the email. How beautiful she was, how comparisons were natural, how he understood why Mara felt insecure living beside someone like Iris. Mara stared at the screen, disbelief tightening her chest. Even now, he couldn't apologize without dragging Iris into it. She forwarded the email to Rowan and went back to sleep without replying. The following week, the court assigned a mediator named Lena to help them arrange custody schedules. Lena had warm eyes and a patient voice. Mara sat on one side of the table, Rhett on the other. They discussed school routines, holidays, birthdays. Rhett suggested the kids spend Christmas with him, like always. Mara shook her head. "We're alternating now," she said. Rhett's face crumpled. He began to cry, shoulders shaking. Mara watched expressionless. Lena waited, then spoke gently. "Love requires respect. Without it, families break." Rhett wiped his face and nodded. Mara didn't feel satisfaction, only exhaustion. When she returned to Iris's apartment after mediation, the kids were playing on the rug with puzzles. Her son looked up with wide eyes. "Did you see Daddy?" he asked softly. Mara knelt beside him. "Yes," she said. "We talked about schedules." Her daughter climbed into her lap and whispered, "Is Daddy sad because of us?" Mara hugged her tightly. "No. None of this is because of you. Grown-ups have problems sometimes, but we love you more than anything." Later that night, Mara went to the bathroom, closed the door, and let herself cry. Not from weakness, but from the weight of trying to protect her children from the truth. After the kids went to bed, Iris poured 2 glasses of wine and told Mara about a big event coming up, a celebration for a marketing award she had won. "I want you to come with me," Iris said. Mara hesitated. The crowds, eyes, noise, it all felt overwhelming. But Iris held her gaze. "You need a night that isn't about lawyers or custody or pain. Just come." Mara agreed reluctantly. The event was held in a fancy hotel ballroom, full of lights and people in stylish clothes. Iris shimmered in a silver dress, greeting everyone with confidence. She introduced Mara proudly as her sister. Instead of comparing her to Iris, people asked Mara about her work. A woman from a tech company leaned in with interest as Mara explained a design project. For the first time in a long while, Mara felt seen not as the safe choice, but as a person with her own voice and talents. 3 days later, Rowan called with news. Rhett's attorney had sent a settlement proposal. Rowan read it line by line. Shared custody, equal holidays, fair division of assets, protection of the kids' college funds. Mara kept waiting for something sneaky hidden in the details, but nothing dangerous appeared. "In my professional opinion, this is reasonable," Rowan said. "Taking this deal will end things cleanly." Mara asked for a night to think. She sat at the kitchen table studying the document while Iris cooked dinner. Accepting the settlement wasn't surrender. It was closure. A clean cut instead of a long wound. By morning, Mara told Rowan to accept it. It was time to move forward. At Rowan's office, Mara signed the agreement. Her hand shook as she wrote her name on each page, marking the formal end of an 8-year chapter. Rowan watched quietly, then placed a hand on Mara's shoulder. "You've handled this with strength," she said. Mara nodded, though she didn't feel strong. She felt hollow. She walked out of the office into the cool morning air and stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, letting the reality sink in. She wasn't married anymore. She wasn't someone's second choice anymore. She was just Mara, and figuring out who that was felt both terrifying and strangely peaceful. At her next therapy session, Mara told Callista she felt grief even though she didn't want Rhett back. Callista nodded. "You're not grieving Rhett," she said gently. "You're grieving the life you thought you had." That life never existed the way you imagined. Mara let the words settle inside her. It was painful but honest. Callista gave her new homework. Write a list of boundaries she would never compromise again. You won't accept crumbs anymore, Callista said softly. And that's a good thing. Mara left the office feeling like she had taken one more step toward rebuilding herself. A week later, Marissa shared new gossip. Rhett had been quietly moved to a different department at work. HR had found multiple complaints from women who felt uncomfortable around him. One coworker revealed that Rhett often showed people photos of Iris and made awkward comments. Another claimed he compared Mara and Iris openly during team gatherings. Mara felt a mixture of shame and relief. Shame that she had been blind to what others saw. Relief that Rhett's pattern was finally visible to people who could hold him accountable. There are consequences for him now, Marissa said gently. Real ones. Mara began searching for an apartment. She wanted a place close to good schools and safe parks. Her parents offered to help with the deposit, calling it a fresh start gift. Mara found a small 2-bedroom unit with bright windows and clean walls. When she stepped inside, she imagined the kids running down the hallway, laughing. She imagined peace. No comparisons. No shadows. Just life. She applied immediately, and a few days later, she signed the lease. Holding the keys felt like holding a new identity, something she could build without Rhett's voice in her ear. Moving day arrived with boxes, blankets, and excitement from the kids. Iris helped pack everything into her SUV. The new apartment echoed slightly as they carried in furniture piece by piece. Can we choose paint colors? The kids asked. Mara smiled. Her son wanted ocean blue. Her daughter demanded purple with glow-in-the-dark stars. They spent the afternoon unpacking toys, sheets, dishes, a mess of old memories and new beginnings. Iris brought pizza and assembled furniture with her electric screwdriver, joking that she could start a side business. At night, the apartment still felt empty, but not lonely. Just new. The next morning, Rhett arrived right on time to pick up the kids for his first official custody weekend. He stood outside the apartment door awkwardly, holding onto the straps of his backpack. They have everything? He asked. Mara nodded. She kept her voice calm, polite, distant. It was a new language they needed to learn, co-parenting without pretending to be a couple. The kids hugged her tightly before leaving. Mara watched them walk to the elevator with Rhett. She didn't cry this time. She just breathed. It felt like progress. Later that weekend, Iris visited with paint samples. They spread them out on Mara's bedroom floor and talked about colors Rhett would never allow. Mara picked a deep sage green. They spent hours painting, listening to soft music, laughing at the splashes on their clothes. Iris pointed out all the small ways Mara had shrunk herself for years, ordering what Rhett liked, wearing what Rhett approved, shaping herself around his preferences. You get to expand now, Iris said gently. Mara looked at the freshly painted wall and felt something shift. She wasn't shrinking anymore. She was growing. Mara returned to therapy that week with her new list of boundaries. Callista read through each line carefully. Good, she said. These are healthy. Mara had written things like no more comparisons, no more shrinking, no more apologizing for existing. But Callista looked up and asked, what do you value about yourself that has nothing to do with anyone else? The question stunned her. Mara realized how hard it was to see herself without Rhett's old voice in her head. She spent several minutes thinking before whispering, I'm kind, I'm patient, and I'm good at creating things. Callista smiled like she had been waiting for Mara to finally say those words. Mara reached out to old college friends she hadn't spoken to in years. One invited her for coffee, and they sat in a small cafe sharing stories until the afternoon slipped away. Her friend admitted softly, I always felt Rhett didn't appreciate you enough. Another friend said something similar a few days later during lunch. He tuned out when you talked about work, she said gently. But when Iris was mentioned, his whole posture changed. Mara felt a mix of embarrassment and relief. It hurt knowing others noticed what she didn't, but it also helped her understand that the problem was never hers to fix. The kids adapted to the two-house routine faster than Mara expected. Her daughter loved having 2 rooms, 2 closets, and twice the toys. Her son decorated both spaces with his drawings and favorite action figures. Mara still worried each time she dropped them off with Rhett, but the kids seemed comfortable. One day, when Rhett picked them up, he tried making small talk about how nice her apartment looked. Mara kept her replies short. They finished their homework. Their clothes are in the purple bag. No friendliness. No warmth. Only boundaries. Rhett looked like he wanted to say more, but she didn't give him the chance. 6 months after the Christmas party, life felt quietly different. On a calm Tuesday morning, Mara sat by her window drinking coffee as sunlight spilled across her small dining table. The grief still lived in her, but it felt softer now, less like a wound, more like a scar. She didn't miss Rhett. She missed the version of her life she thought she had. But she also felt something new. Air. Space. Peaceful mornings without criticism. She breathed in slowly and felt her chest expand fully, like she finally owned all the space around her. That Friday night, Iris came over with groceries to make tacos. They cooked together while the kids danced around the kitchen. Her son helped chop tomatoes with a plastic knife. Her daughter made little hats out of tortilla pieces. The apartment echoed with laughter. Real laughter, the kind that didn't shrink to make someone else comfortable. As they ate at the tiny dining table, Iris told a story about a photo shoot where a dog stole her sandwich, and the kids laughed so hard they nearly fell off their chairs. Mara looked around at the chaos, at the people who loved her, and realized, this is what family is. Not perfection. Not comparison. Just love. A few weeks later, Mara went on a casual coffee date with a man she met through a friend. He asked about her design projects and listened with genuine interest. No jokes about Iris. No shifting eyes. No subtle insults. Just curiosity. Mara talked freely, realizing she was starving for simple respect. The date didn't turn into anything romantic, but she went home smiling. Not because of him, but because the world suddenly felt bigger. She was not broken. She was not unlovable. She was just rediscovering herself. 3 weeks later, the court sent Mara the final divorce decree. She stared at the official email for a long moment. It felt heavy and light at the same time. Rowan called to congratulate her. Mara thanked her, then sat quietly at her kitchen table. She felt a sting of sadness, not for Rhett, but for the 8 years she had invested in something that wasn't real. Then she breathed out slowly. She had survived it. She had rebuilt herself. She had chosen herself. That mattered more than any signature on a legal form. At her next session, Callista told her, "You did something brave, Mara. You didn't settle for being someone's second choice." Mara nodded, wiping quiet tears. For the first time, she didn't cry because she was hurt. She cried because she was proud. That weekend, her parents hosted a dinner. They called it a new beginning celebration. Mara sat surrounded by people who loved her without conditions. Her father raised a glass and said, "To Mara, who chose peace over pain and value over comparison." Her mother squeezed her hand. Mara felt embraced in a way she hadn't felt in years. That night, after returning home and tucking the kids into their new rooms, her son looked up at her with serious eyes. "Mommy, are you happy now?" he whispered. Mara sat beside him and brushed his hair gently. "Yes," she said softly. "I'm happy because I learned I deserve to be someone's first choice." He hugged her tightly, whispering, "You're my first choice." Her heart warmed, and as she kissed his forehead, then she turned off the light, closed the door gently, and stepped into the hallway of the new life she was finally ready to live. Please subscribe, like, and comment.